President Obama made those comments after landing in Warsaw on Thursday night, where he's attending the NATO summit. Leaders from the 28-nation security alliance are attending the biannual event. Relations with Russia are at the top of the agenda. Other issues expected to dominate include the refugee crisis and the threat of terror faced by many of the members. Well, Simon McGregor-Wood is in Warsaw and joins us now live. Simon, a good morning to you. So how's NATO going to respond to that threat, perceived threat from Russia?
Well, pretty much as we had been expecting in the advance to this summit. We just heard from the Secretary General of NATO giving an opening address, Jens Stoltenberg, and he's confirmed that given the concerns about the Russian assertiveness, so the diplomats call it, NATO will be rotating 4 new battalions. In total, that's about 4,000 soldiers in Poland and the 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. They'll be led principally by the Americans, the Canadians, the Germans and the British, and that is essentially to reassure all of those states on the eastern fringes of the NATO alliance who are very concerned, given what's happened in Ukraine and Crimea and in Georgia before that, about Russia's new aggression, and this is meant to confront that. It's been called, if you like, a tripwire. There's no question that 4,000 soldiers will necessarily be able to defend those countries, but it's very symbolic. It's saying to the Russians, should you try anything, whether it's a full frontal assault or some kind of hybrid attack on those countries, you will not only be attacking the troops of those countries, you will actually be taking on the whole of the alliance. And under Article 5 of the NATO treaty, an attack against one is an attack against all. So it's a very symbolic measure, and it's meant to send a clear message of deterrence to the Russians.
Absolutely. Reassurance to those states, but poking the bear, as it were, Simon. And what other issues of concern will be discussed at this summit?
Well, it's interesting that President Obama, he's here, of course, for his last NATO summit. He's just flown in overnight, commenting there on the terrible events in Dallas. But his first meeting, interestingly, was with European Union officials, with Jean-Claude Juncker and the President of the Council, Donald Tusk. You'll remember that President Obama made a rather high-profile intervention into the Brexit campaign. Well, the UK decided to go for Brexit, and it's clear the Americans and others in Europe, and here in NATO actually, are very concerned about whether that means the Brits are sort of turning away not only from their commitments to the European Union, but perhaps to NATO as well, because in Europe, the UK is one of the biggest contributors militarily to NATO. So I think he was seeking reassurances there. We've had a lot of discussions in the lead up to this, not only about the Russian threat as it impacts the east of NATO, in Eastern Europe, but also to the south, and clearly that's going to be of some concern to Turkey. Turkey is clearly concerned about Russian build-up in the Black Sea, and then we have the destabilizing effects of all the turmoil that's going on in the Middle East. That is, of course, a direct threat to Turkey and other members of the so-called southern flank of NATO. So we should expect some announcements about the bolstering of things like air surveillance and maritime resources to help confront migration and the issue of non-state actors, in other words, terrorism, which of course is also a threat to NATO, not only on the southern flank.
Absolutely. Well, Simon, for now, from Warsaw, thank you.